Good morning and welcome to your opening ceremony for the academic year 2021-22. I hope you enjoyed that excellent performance by one of our most cherished musical groups, St. Salvator's Chapel Choir, the resident choral group at the university, led by their director, Claire Innes-Hopkins. The song they performed, the Gaudiamus, is a traditional academic song in Latin, which forms a part of many of our rituals at St. Andrew's. This ceremony is an opportunity for us to introduce you to a number of the people who will have an important role in shaping your experience here. So let me first say who I am. My name is Professor Frank Lorenz Müller, and I am an Assistant Vice Principal and the Dean of Learning and Teaching. Together with the Vice Principal for Education, also known as the Proctor, I am responsible for standards of learning and teaching, for the university's education strategy, and for student discipline at the university. I would like to welcome you, our new students, very warmly to the University of St. Andrews. You are at the beginning of what I am sure will be an exciting, rewarding, and wonderful phase in your lives. Enjoy it, responsibly. First of all, I would like to congratulate you and the generous people who have supported you so far on your achievements to date. It is anything but easy to become a student at St. Andrews. We aim to create a student body that is diverse, international, and made up of the brightest young people we can find. You. You have convinced us that you will both greatly benefit from what this community has to offer and make yourself a wonderful contribution to its lasting success. We are proud and pleased that you decided to apply here and that you have proved equal to the task of meeting our exacting entry standards. You have done really well. This ceremony is for all new undergraduate and taught postgraduate students. Together with you, your supporters, and the whole university community, we want to celebrate the moment that you join us. Today, you become part of a community that is focused on both high intellectual endeavor and strong social values. We welcome you to a place and a time in your life that are going to be very special and will change you forever. This ceremony would normally have taken place in the Younger Hall, one of the most splendid venues that the university has to offer. Whilst we continue to play our part in the global challenge of suppressing the COVID-19 pandemic, though, we're still prevented from hosting large ceremonial gatherings. So, for a second year, the opening ceremonies come to you in this digital format, but no less warmly. Of course, this is not the only effect the pandemic has had on our lives. It has impacted every part of our operations, and while we have made great strides to tackle this global challenge and regain much of what we treasure about our pre-pandemic lives, we still need to be vigilant and considerate in how we're dealing with COVID-19 and its effect on the people around us. As part of the team responsible for teaching and learning, I have helped to oversee the work of moving our classes to dual-mode delivery, so that each of you can continue to receive our world-leading education wherever you may be right now. More recently, as the measures to protect ourselves against the virus have begun to bear fruit, we have concentrated on how to return to as much in-person teaching as we can safely offer our students. We have made great strides in this and have learned many lessons over the past 3 semesters. But 2021-22 will still bear some marks of the pandemic experience. The values that define the St. Andrews experience, quality, community, respect, tradition, and collegiality, will persevere despite the global challenges we face. In fact, the very difficulties that COVID-19 brought with it have made our particular strengths stand out even more clearly. Together with our amazing student body, our staff managed to deliver world-leading learning and teaching in the very face of these extremely trying times. Let me assure you, we are here to help you succeed despite these challenges and will provide you with all the resources you require to do so. I would now like to welcome the Principal and Vice-Chancellor of the University, Professor Sally Mapstone.
Hello everybody. As Principal and Vice-Chancellor, I would like to welcome each of you to the University of St Andrews. We're immensely pleased to have you join us as part of our community, and I look forward to getting to know as many of you as possible. You will hear such sentiments throughout this ceremony. You have already heard words of welcome from the Assistant Vice Principal and Dean of Learning and Teaching, Professor Frank Lorenz Muller. I will be followed by the Dean of Medicine, Professor David Crossman, and also by our Rector, Dr. Leila Hussain, by your student representatives, and by our guest academic for today's ceremony, Dr. Akira O'Connor from the School of Psychology and Neuroscience, all of whom wish to celebrate your arrival at St Andrews and acknowledge your entrance into our community. Matriculating at the University of St Andrews is a particularly special moment because you are joining a community that is over 600 years old. We were founded in 1413 as Scotland's first university and are one of the 25 oldest in the world. But we combine our history and rich traditions with a forward-thinking attitude and a consistent commitment to excellence and innovation, as a result of which we are the highest-ranked university in Scotland, one of the top 5 in the UK, and one of the top 100 anywhere in the world, despite our relatively small size. Some of you will also know that we have overtaken the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, respectively, in the last 2 years of the Guardian University League table to become the second-ranked university in the UK. We are recognised so consistently because St Andrews is home to some of the finest academics to be found anywhere in the world. People who are conducting high-quality and wide-ranging research which improves society for all. As students, you have direct access to these world-leading scholars who will teach you throughout your time here. Please make full use of this immensely precious resource. The strength of this academic experience is reflected in our successes in the National Student Survey, in which we are the only mainstream UK institution with a satisfaction rate of over 90% and have ranked first place for the student academic experience for the past 6 years. And we were both pleased and humbled that student satisfaction at St Andrews increased in last year's National Student Survey despite the pandemic and a national drop in average satisfaction. We are particularly proud of this statistic because it demonstrates the individual attention that each of you will receive whilst at our university and the efforts that we will make to support you. We care very much about your development as a student and as a person. This ceremony welcomes both undergraduates and postgraduates who are new to the university, and my remarks are addressed to all of you. However, on occasion, they may be more relevant to one group or the other. It is really enriching to be part of our community. The people you meet this year and during your time here will often become your lifelong friends, and the people who teach you and work with you will become invaluable advisors and colleagues too. But it is also a privilege to be part of our academic family, and with that privilege come responsibilities. When you are out and about in the town and in the world, you now represent the University of St Andrews. What people think about the university will be shaped by you and your actions. So it is essential that you embody our community's values. Of course, your core activity at St Andrews must be studying. I'm going to share with you the mantra that worked for me when I was at Oxford in the 1970s and which continues still to guide how I run my life. Get your studying done first. I always ensured that I got my essays done before I immersed myself in the politics, drama, or journalism that were the staples of my student career. And I enjoyed myself more on that basis, achieved higher, and felt in control. It is a principle that I recommend to each of you. That studying will not always be easy. You have all come from environments where you were the best and the brightest, but you are now studying amongst people who are operating on an identical level. You will need to become a better student still in order to continue achieving highly. And that transformation happens through hard work, self-motivation, and indeed a bit of a challenge. But there is much joy to be found in this, and when you graduate at the end of your time here, you will be more intellectually adaptable, resilient, and ready to succeed in the opportunities that await you beyond St Andrews. We will support you to the best of our ability, but the efforts that you make in your studies will directly correlate to your level of success. Each of you is capable of a first-class degree, and the certificate you receive when you graduate will testify to the efforts you make now. As rigorous as this sounds, the time around your studies will provide many opportunities for enjoyment. Take your first few weeks in St Andrews to survey everything it has to offer. Introduce yourself to as many new people as you can, whether online or in person, and find a rhythm to life that works with your studies and extracurricular activities. Taking your time to settle in properly will enable you to build a life here that is enriching. For undergraduates, one of the remarkable qualities of the four-year Scottish degree structure is its flexibility in the first 2 years of study, and you should think creatively about how you use this time. You can learn a new language or take classes in a subject completely different from that which you entered to study. We also offer an impressive number of courses for those of you who wish to develop your skills and knowledge around sustainability. For this academic year, we have launched a sustainability map that can be found on the student education web pages, and where you can find out about modules that explore the challenges of climate and environmental change. You will find a number of modules that have been recognised with the Golden Dandelion stamp, which celebrates excellence in sustainability teaching. But outside of the classroom, undergraduate and postgraduate students alike can join a sports team or one of the hundreds of societies that are active in St Andrews, or perhaps advance a musical talent at our superb new Laidlaw Music Centre. The opportunities available are extraordinarily varied, and Orientation Week and the first weeks of the semester are the perfect time to explore them. We believe that St Andrews combines our small town sense of closeness with the openness and global perspective that comes from the international composition of our students and our staff. How you engage with that will be crucial to how you take your place in our community. For the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted more than ever the responsibilities that we possess toward one another. This is a time of great optimism when the success of the global vaccine programme has permitted a greater degree of public life than anything we have experienced since the start of the pandemic. And that means the resumption of in-person teaching and social activities to a greater extent. But as Professor Muller has already indicated, we must ensure that our contingency measures are robust, that we continue to show diligence, and that we respect the needs of members of our community who continue to be particularly vulnerable to the virus. This semester will be a transitional one during which in-person activities will resume to an increasing extent as our staff and students shift their professional and personal behaviours to accommodate a greater degree of in-person interaction. This is not as easy as it might seem for everyone, so we ask that you practice the St Andrean virtues of tolerance and respect right from the beginning of your time with us. Indeed, respect should underpin your behaviours at St Andrews at all times, including in the classroom. Academia must be a space in which ideas are expressed and interrogated, but so too must it be a place of courtesy. You must respect the diversity and inclusion at the heart of our community, and you must show consideration for the safety and well-being of those around you. You have each agreed to these behavioural principles in the Sponsio Academica, the Latin agreement which concludes the matriculation procedures. Despite the obligatory nature of these requirements, I hope that these will also be things that you do because that is the sort of person you are. A person who cares about other people and puts that foremost in the way they conduct themselves. I would like to suggest that you each take it upon yourself to go one step further and to take responsibility for enacting positive change. There are a huge number of campaign and social justice groups at work in our town, which are always looking for new members. I encourage you to engage with these causes and to make life better for your colleagues and our wider community. That is the way to be an exemplary St Andrews student. I have met many such students in my 5 years as principal, brilliant young people of distinction, all of whom are now making a difference in their chosen path. And I want to close with a recent example. In the summer degree conferral ceremonies that we hosted online at the end of June for the class of 2021, I awarded my highest prize, the Principal's Medal, to 3 students. One of those students was Leah Weiman, and she received the Principal's Medal in honour of her outstanding attainment in her Master of Arts degree in International Relations and Sustainable Development, and for the extensive environmental work she carried out throughout her 4 years at St Andrews, which included hosting climate marches, running an environmentalism website, serving as the Students' Association Environment Officer, and even publishing a book of environmental poetry. Upon receiving the medal, Leah wrote to me, referring back to her own opening ceremony on the 11th of September 2017, when I gave an address with similar themes to this one. Leah wrote that the advice I imparted then, to work hard, seize every opportunity, and to do so with respect and kindness, guided her 4 years at St Andrews. Leah went on to say, and I quote her words, "I cannot believe how quickly the 4 years have flown by. My time in St Andrews was more special and enriching than I could have imagined. A time of personal growth, of deep questioning, many stimulating discussions, creativity, and change." There is much to be learned from Leah's words. Your time at St Andrews holds many wonders in store, but it is up to you to make the very most of the opportunities which are available to you. In years to come, I hope that you will look back on this day as one of the most pivotal and transformative moments in your life, and on your decision to join St Andrews as one of the wisest you have ever made. Welcome to the University of St Andrews.
Thank you, Professor Mapstone, for your words of welcome. The academic staff at the university are researchers and teachers in the subjects that you may be studying in your time with us. They are brilliant people who work extremely hard and demonstrate commitment to their subject. They will be expecting exactly the same from you. The staff who will be speaking to you at this ceremony are members of the faculties of Science and Medicine, just as you will soon be. The head of those academic families are the deans, and we have with us the Dean of Medicine, Professor David Crossman, who would like to speak to you now.
Greetings and welcome. I'm the Dean of Medicine, Professor David Crossman, and for those of you who are joining the Faculty of Science, the Dean of Science is Professor Ineke de Moutel. I'm a cardiologist, and Ineke is an applied mathematician. It's my turn today to address you on behalf of both faculties. First, congratulations on making the right choice, choosing to come to a small, once fishing village sticking out into the North Sea in Scotland, to the University of St Andrews, an extremely fine university. Congratulations for the work and effort you have made to get here, and congratulations for not letting COVID-19 change your ambitions. How are you feeling? I can guess. Some of you may be a bit fragile, maybe even homesick. Some may be uncertain but excited. Some may be uncertain but nervous. Don't worry, we know. We've been there ourselves, in my case in year -1, been there with our own daughters and sons, and above all, seen many years of new students join universities. I know it's all going to be fine. Over the next few days, you will be welcomed by many and given words of advice by some senior figures, some of whom must seem very old to you, and this short speech is no different. Why do we do it? Well, we're entirely genuine with our welcome. We think this is a great university and one at which we can help you realise your potential and where you should have the time of your life. The second reason is that we don't want you to make mistakes. And most of all, we don't want you to make the mistakes we made. Your parents probably have given you a surfeit of such wisdom over the years, and I will add to it, I'm afraid. Why do we feel inclined to do it? It's not as if there's not an abundance of motivational sayings and advice for a successful life available to you on social media, and some of that might even be right. It's not just because we are boring old things who, because we can, we do. It's because there is actually some science behind the advice I'm about to give you. Now, some of you are going to be scientists and some medics, so here goes, your first lecture. The postgraduate students amongst us, bear with me. This bit's for the undergraduates, I'll come to you later. The wonderful thing that is the human brain grows in you when you are in your mother, and a little bit after you are born. You feed it with your experience and learning, but all the time it goes on developing, if not growing, biologically through organisation of neuronal connections and selective myelination. For most of you students today, this brain development is not yet complete. The synapses, connections of your cerebral neurons, are in fact being pruned or cut back. Hence the old idea of early neuronal loss, which in fact is unlikely to be the case. Neuronal loss is what old people who lecture you have. There certainly is, though, cortical thinning in adolescence, along with more intense myelination in some regions, clear evidence that you're still tidying up your brain cells. Now, this process occurs occipital to frontal, back to front, leaving the frontal lobes the last to be tidy. Girls are a little ahead of boys, about a year, but at the moment your frontal lobe function is not perfect. Frontal lobes, as you may know, do important things like control behaviours and decision making. They control responses to adverse stimuli as well as determine executive function. Biologically, you are tidying your brains, which leads to tidier function and tidier lives. So, beware. Self-control comes in time with mature frontal lobe function. Us lot of university academics can give warnings and advice in place of what will become hardwired, and some of this can backfill what you had at home. But you are off the leash to some extent now, and you need to be careful about what you do. Impulsive behaviour on social media and with others can have real danger to your future, as well as cause upset to those around you. Now, to the postgraduate students. Your brain is developed. You have excelled in your undergraduate studies, and you are perhaps close to the zenith of your cognitive function or fluid intelligence. Einstein, after all, believed all serious contribution to science happened before the age of 30. But it's not all hopeless. You can get smarter with declining fluid intelligence. That's partly because emotional intelligence almost certainly peaks much later, perhaps as late as 50. So you must concentrate on how you more efficiently engage with the world to allow your acquired knowledge and wisdom facilitate engagement with others in that world for your success. Networks and collaborations become the natural goals that will propel you towards your ultimate ambitions and destination. In addition to all this, I'm only going to give all of you 2 other short pieces of advice today. The first is, though you are all brilliant to have got here, and genuinely well done, even in this swimming pool of intellectual excellence, there are better swimmers than others. Some will find it easier than others, some will need more support than others, and that support will be readily available. But my advice is don't fall behind with your work and learning. Catching up is so difficult, and after a time, impossible. Act swiftly if you think you are falling behind. The second piece of advice is to stay in touch with those who have helped you get here, your family and networks. Today is most definitely a new and exciting step for you, but you do not come here entirely unconnected, and my advice is to use these connections well and as you need. But enough of this now. You start an extraordinary venture. Hang on tight, it's going to be great. Welcome, and may the road rise up to meet you on your way through your time here, and may the wind always be at your backs. Thank you.
Thank you to the Dean for their words of welcome. You have chosen to continue with your education at university despite the extraordinary global challenge we are still facing. We applaud this wise choice. It reflects your ambition, resilience, and tenacity. And now the challenge to you as students of the University of St Andrews is beginning. It is incumbent upon you to rise above the disruption that this pandemic has brought to every aspect of our life, wherever you are in the world, and to excel in your educational experience. Everyone in the university is here to support you in this endeavour, and my outstanding colleagues in student services, registry, the library, the chaplaincy, the Centre for Educational Enhancement and Development, the Careers Centre, Saints Sport, the Music Centre, in the halls of residence and in the academic schools, have been preparing for your arrival. We have considered every way possible to ensure that your student experience is excellent and is resilient to any future changes that the pandemic may still bring. However, it would be naive of me to say that the practicalities of your life, whether you're present in St Andrews or engaging with your studies remotely, will not be affected by the consequences of the pandemic. But as we regain our old freedoms, carefully but steadily, we will tackle these difficulties, and we will do so together, as a respectful, considerate, and strong community. Students at this university have an awesome tradition of being creative and innovative with respect to their social and extracurricular activities within the bubble of our town. You may especially come to value the opportunities we have for outdoor activities and outdoor sport. At St Andrews, our open spaces, the beaches, and our sports fields enable us to be active and sociable without risk. But we will also provide indoor venues where students can pursue their interests safely. In addition, our online resources will enable you to become fully integrated members of our community of students, no matter where you are. If you live in St Andrews, you are resident in a small town where students comprise over a third of the population. Your presence here is wholeheartedly welcomed. But as the Vice-Chancellor said, we have a responsibility to ensure the safety of all those who live in the town, including the residents, your teachers, and your fellow students, by adhering at all times to the advice given in connection with the pandemic and its continued suppression. Ensuring that we all take all possible measures to reduce the chances of an outbreak in St Andrews means that the university can continue to operate in a way that allows all of us to move freely, engage in sports and other extracurricular activities, and that students retain the ability to attend classes in person. As a student at St Andrews, you're entitled to feel safe here, and you should not hesitate to challenge your peers to adhere to any rules on protective actions or on respectful behavior towards each other. If you do not get an appropriate response, please report breaches of our code. Within the Proctor's office, we are responsible both for student welfare and student discipline. And with the support of the student discipline officers, you can be reassured by the fact that we will take a very dim view of students who are not behaving responsibly or without due consideration for all the members of the university and town communities. More widely, you're about to become representatives of the university, and that carries responsibilities, including being polite and respectful towards everyone else in the university and in the town, in how you behave and communicate. When you matriculate this week, you will formally undertake to adhere at all times to our principles of honesty, integrity, courtesy, safety, and respect. We selected you to join us here because we believe that you will help us maintain the high standards that make us famous around the world, not just academically, but in terms of decency and good citizenship. Please live up to the trust we are putting in you to continue our good name. We have confidence that you will be proud to be here, and in return, we hope always to be proud of you. At St. Andrews, the student voice is embedded in every aspect of our strategy, governance, and education. This is an element of our decision-making process in which we take particular pride. It helps us deliver an unrivaled student experience. The sabbatical officers are students who have been elected by the student body to work full-time for 1 year and to represent your interests within the university. In the 2021-22 academic year, they are the President of your Students' Association, Lottie Doherty, the Director of Education, Leonie Marlin Höher, the Director of Wellbeing, Anna Ruth Cockerham, the Director of Student Development and Activities, Avery Kitchens, the Director of Events and Services, Bella Zeff, the President of the Athletic Union, Jess Smith, and the Postgraduate Academic Convener, Caroline McWilliams. They will now introduce themselves and explain their roles.
Hello, I'm Lottie Doherty, your Association President. My job involves representing students to the university, to local and national government and other organisations and institutions, and to the press and media outlets. I line manage the environment, community relations, accommodation and alumni subcommittees and work closely with other sabbatical officers on a wide range of issues such as affordability, accessibility and sustainability. I also work on strategy and communications. I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot from me over the next year and I look forward to seeing and talking with you, whether virtually or in person. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the sabbatical officers when you run into issues. We are here to work for you and to support you throughout your time here.
Hello everyone, my name is Leonie Marlin Höher and I am your Director of Education. That means I represent you on matters related to educational experience and academic life. I oversee the academic representative system in St. Andrews, and as a result, I work very closely with the faculty presidents, postgraduate academic convener, school presidents, and class representatives. Every school has a school president, and every module has at least one class representative advocating for their peers, collecting feedback, and helping to enhance your studies. Our community of close to 400 academic reps continuously works to ensure that your voice is heard at all levels of the university. If you want to be part of this, look out for undergraduate class representative elections in weeks 1 and 2 and postgraduate class representative elections in weeks 4 and 5. Enjoy your studies.
Hi, I'm Anna Ruth, your Director of Wellbeing. I'm in charge of representing students on issues of welfare and equality. I also work with some of our fantastic student groups like Saints LGBT+, the Disabled and BAME Students Networks, Lifers and the Wellbeing Committee. In semester 2, I also run our Students Association elections. If you're interested in getting involved or have any questions or concerns, you can reach me by email on doel@, or, fingers crossed, drop in and see me on the middle floor of the Union.
Hi everyone, my name's Avery Kitchens and I'm the Director of Student Development and Activities at the Students Association. My job is to represent and support the student body in areas including and relating to societies, charities, performing arts, museums, volunteering, careers, music, and entrepreneurship. Societies and student groups are great ways to get integrated into student life, and I strongly recommend getting involved in both familiar and new activities.
Hi, I'm Bella Zeff and I'm your Director of Events and Services. I'm responsible for organising and promoting events and entertainment at the Union. We'll have a huge variety of stuff going on this year and I'm here to serve the students, so if you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to get in touch.
Hi, I'm Jess, your Athletic Union President. I'm here to represent you on all matters to do with student sport and its development in St Andrews and beyond. I support Saints Sport's 52 sports clubs, so I'm confident that there's something for everyone in St Andrews, whatever your sporting background. I'm looking forward to welcoming you this year.
Hello, I'm Caroline McWilliams, the Postgraduate Academic Convener, and I'm delighted to welcome you to St Andrews. I'm an elected officer of the Students Association, as well as a PhD student in the School of History. It is my job to represent all postgraduate students in matters relating to education and representation at the university level. I sit on around a dozen different committees and working groups, including Academic Senate, the Postgraduate Research Committee, and Association Councils. I am available to talk through issues with any postgraduate student, and I encourage you to reach out to me at any time. You can contact me via my email at pgconvene@standrews.ac.uk. There have recently been some changes to the postgraduate representation system to ensure that all postgraduates are and feel represented at every level. In order to do this, we are introducing 6 new positions: 1 PGT president, 1 PGR president, and 4 officers who will work alongside me and the rest of the wonderful education team. These elections will be held in October, and I do hope that you will consider running for one of them. At the same time, we will be electing class representatives. This is another great way to get involved and network with your fellow students and with staff.
The sabbatical officers have worked hard over the summer to find the right mix between innovative online formats and a return to in-person events to continue building the university and student community identity, as well as the rich fabric of student activities and events as we move out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Students and staff at St Andrews work in collaboration to make this university the magical and transformative place that it is. I would like to encourage you to think about taking part in student representation yourself, perhaps by standing as a class representative or, in time, as a school student president, or by engaging in the valuable activities at the Student Association. You can speak with your current school president or any of the sabbatical officers to find out more. The student voice is also represented at St Andrews in the ancient position of Rector, a person external to the university who is elected by students to preside over the governing body of the university court, and to advocate in the interests of students. The current rector is Dr. Leila Hussein, OBE, a psychotherapist, activist, and campaigner for women's rights. Leila would now like to add her own words of welcome.
Dear incoming students, my name is Leila Sirad Hussein, and I was elected as your rector last year to represent students' interests at University Hall. I'm currently based between the UK and Kenya. I'm a psychotherapist and a women and girls' rights activist, with my expertise being around gender-based violence and well-being. It is my privilege and joy to welcome you all to the new academic year at the University of St Andrews. Whether you are joining us in person or remotely, I hope this will be an exciting and enriching year. While we are still grappling with the global consequences of the pandemic, I hope you will be able to enjoy this year as much as possible. The effects of the pandemic will have affected you in different and unique ways. And I want to emphasize that despite the isolation of the past year, you are not alone. Although the global restrictions are affecting our lives, which is why I'm filming this video from Kenya. We have to do our best to find new ways to connect, work, learn, and make an impact. This year won't be easy or normal, but I'm confident that we are moving in the right direction. I wanted to take this opportunity to encourage you to enjoy your time at St Andrews as much as possible. Join as many societies as you can, those you're interested in, try new things, to talk to new people, find new friends, and collaborate on causes that are important to you. This is above all the opportunity to create new connections and learn more about yourself. One of the most inspiring things about St Andrews for me is the vibrant community of student activists who are working on so many causes in St Andrews and beyond. Here you will find the opportunity to start exploring different interests and communities and finding how you want to make an impact in the world. While it may feel scary, I guarantee you will be welcomed by the community. In these times, it's essential to work towards justice, sustainability, and well-being for all. And St Andrews is a great place to start. In these times, it's also essential to make sure you are taking good care of yourself. This is something we don't talk about enough, but is extremely important. As a psychotherapist, well-being is the core of my work, and I have experienced this personally. It is important and necessary to remind yourself that you have to put your well-being first. You can't do anything if you don't feel well. Rest is so important. Make sure you don't burn out. Give yourselves days off to recharge, have a mental health day, switch off, do something relaxing for yourself, and don't be afraid for asking for help. There is help to be found at the university, whether that's an extension to a deadline, talking to a student services, or Nightline, or taking leave of absence if you need to. Although you're at uni to learn and develop academically, your health and well-being should always come first. So make sure you treat yourself with kindness and compassion. I wish you all the absolute best in your new semester, and I hope to see you all in town very soon. Hopefully have a chat too. Please take care of yourself and make sure to be very kind to yourself too. Very important. Take care, everyone.
Thank you to the Rector for those words of welcome. To say more about what we hope for you and let you see what you can expect from us, the final person we have asked to speak this morning is Dr. Akira O'Connor. Dr. O'Connor is a senior lecturer in the School of Psychology and Neuroscience. Not only is Akira a brilliant and inspiring teacher, he is also a highly regarded researcher. Akira's areas of expertise comprise cognitive and neural bases of memory, including the sensation of memory and memory expectation conflict that occurs when we experience déjà vu. We have asked Dr. O'Connor to conclude today's ceremony with a welcome to you.
Welcome to university. Welcome to St. Andrews. By now you must feel as though you have heard everything there is to hear about studying at St. Andrews. This advice, offered by those of us who believe we have trodden a similar path to you, will have been delivered with the intent of helping you make sense of a great many novel experiences. Make the most of Freshers' Week. Make the most of first year. Do Subject X. Employers always want people with degrees in that. Live in these halls, not those halls. Pick good academic parents. Don't step on that. As a memory researcher, I know that we're all pretty bad at understanding what we haven't yet experienced, what we have to imagine, and much better at understanding what we have experienced, what we remember. The advice you have heard will therefore probably be most useful to you after you have been through what it was intended to guide you through, when your memory system will stand a chance of recollecting what you should have done. Bookmark this video and watch it again in a year. We'll all seem very wise then. One of the reasons advice can be hard to use is that when it is delivered, it is stripped of all memorable detail, distilled into the smallest, smoothest, most beautiful unit of information. Advice becomes so profound as to be applicable to all situations, yet so generic as to be impossible to implement in any. It becomes forgettable. People like me giving this sort of advice do it for all sorts of reasons. We want to give profound advice. That seems like the sort of thing we ought to be doing. We want to give maximally useful advice. Why constrain it to one specific situation when it applies to others too? But perhaps most importantly, we don't want our particular circumstances at the time we learnt the lesson we're trying to teach you to alienate you with all of the many ways in which your circumstances differ from ours. The road to forgettable advice is paved with good intentions. At the core of any piece of advice is an experience and a lesson learned. Anyone giving advice probably thinks you'd like a shortcut to learning that lesson, but they can't know that for sure. Maybe you don't need the advice. Maybe you don't want it. There's a bit of educated mind reading involved in deciding to even offer the advice in the first place. I'm going to avoid the hard work of second-guessing what you might need to hear by giving you the advice I wish I could give myself at the start of my undergraduate degree. For each of the 4 points, I'll start with the distillation of the idea before attempting to situate it in a little more personal context. It's all very memorable, for me at least. First, fail and fail well. Much of your academic life so far has been spent excelling. Don't get into the bad habit of only doing the things you do well, or make the mistake of thinking that if you aren't a natural at something, you may as well not bother. Explore, experiment, and practice. Explore. Listen, read, and watch widely. What you learn on YouTube can be as valuable as what you read in a journal article. But don't confuse a medium that is easy to consume with one that is valuable. Ease of consumption and value aren't as unrelated as you have been told, nor are they as related as you might want them to be. Experiment. To understand value, reflect on what you learn from and try it in your own work. It won't always be to your taste or to your teachers, so refine your approach iteratively and work effortfully at improvement. Practice. Part of this effortful refinement is practice. New ways of doing things aren't closed off to you just because they don't come naturally. This seems like the most obvious message to deliver at any educational institution, but it's important to hear, especially if you're used to things coming easily. Everything you do at university will improve with mindful practice. To put all of this in a personal context, 11 years ago I received some of the most painful feedback I ever received. It also proved to be the most valuable. I had just given a talk to my department in St. Louis and was taken aside by my mentor who said, "You're no Richard Burton. You can't speak and expect people to listen just because it's you speaking." The seminar I had given had gone fine, but I had clearly lost the audience. I had failed in what I needed to do. I didn't think of myself as a natural public speaker, so I tended to write my slides and go through them a couple of times and hope things fell into place on the day. The fact that I hadn't crashed and burned that time was enough for me. It wasn't enough for my mentor. He helped me to realize that I could improve my public speaking by working to find an authentic voice that I was comfortable with, by treating talks as a journey where I was the tour guide, and with practice. Lots of practice. The next talk I gave was an important one. For the first time since secondary school, I thought from first principles about what I wanted people to get from my talk. I took inspiration from speakers I found engaging and took advice from colleagues who gave me their time. I must have practiced the talk 50 times, listening while I spoke, refining each version to make it come more naturally to me. The 51st time I gave the talk, I gave it to my future colleagues at St. Andrews. That first failure was where my effortful learning started, and it ultimately brought me here. The second piece of advice is short, because there's no way to cover everything. Find your people. Join clubs and societies. Find your communities in St. Andrews and beyond. If doing this in person doesn't place your strengths, do it online. Explore, give voice to, even embody all of your identities, regardless of what anyone you know or love might think. There is no need to constrain yourself with consistency. Third, learn in context. Context is a word you'll hear a lot in the coming years. Always remember that your learning is situated in all sorts of contexts. The academic context. The expertise and resources here are part of what makes St. Andrews the university it is. Even in the age of Teams lectures and online exams, remember that there are real people who have thought deeply and worked hard to deliver their teaching and make available the resources that will allow you to get the most of your time in St. Andrews. Some will demonstrate clearly that they value you above all else. Others will appear preoccupied with other things. Remember, though, that every single person here has made a choice to work alongside and with you. We all show it in different ways, but know that we all care deeply. The historic context. You're about to embark on a program of study in a 600-year-old institution. In the next few years, you will develop a connection with the past through culture and tradition that has likely never been so explicit. Choose what to value critically, and once you have chosen, participate enthusiastically. The environmental context. You're in a beautiful corner of Scotland, with beaches, parks, paths and sports facilities just minutes away from your halls, houses and lecture theatres. Walk, run, roll and ride as much as you can. You're a short journey away from galleries, museums, concert halls and clubs. Exercise your eyes, your ears, your hearts and your minds. If you're pushing yourself, you will with some regularity feel bored or uncomfortable and even hurt and heartbroken. But you will also learn a great deal about the world and about yourself. Finally, and most importantly, understand your own value and values. Many of the things I've already advised you to do will help with this, and this will help you with everything else I have advised. Where do you know from? This is the name given to a set of questions devised by Dr. Eugenia Zuroski, a scholar at McMaster University. These questions act as an alternative to the countless standard issue icebreakers that you will participate in over the coming months. These questions are: 1. What is your name? 2. What pronouns would you like used in reference to you? 3. What are your intellectual interests? 4. How did your interests come to you? 5. Who is your intellectual work for? And 6. What else would you like us to remember and recognize about you when we engage in conversation with you? If you're interested in answering these questions alone or with others, you can read Dr. Zuroski's blog post in which she explains each question by searching online for "Where do you know from?" The first time I answered these questions for myself, which was only earlier this year, I was moved at the honesty with which the questions were asked and how I answered them in kind. There are no right answers to any of these questions. They're determined by you and only you. Even standard questions like the first two, your name and your pronouns, when considered in this context, take on a more personal, weighty meaning. If this statement seems to you a strange one, think about those for whom it isn't strange. Think about those who have chosen names that aren't their birth names, so that their teachers, their peers, even their friends and family can pronounce them. Think about people who are consistently misgendered, who have to muster the courage to express aspects of their identities that most take for granted. We navigate so many facets of identity in our interests and education that it is important to consider these ways in which identity, interest, expertise and knowledge all interact. These questions encourage you to consider these interactions: who you are, where your knowledge comes from, and how valuable it is to you. By doing this, we can continue to build St. Andrews University to be a place where diversity of background and experience will enhance all of our learning. As you navigate the coming years of your degree, you will also learn many other things, often in reaction to what you are being asked to learn. During my undergraduate degree, I learned that whilst my GCSEs and A-levels came easily, my degree didn't. I learned that I don't enjoy networking exercises. I learnt that I'm not a natural leader. I learnt that I would be asked to justify aspects of myself, especially my racial background, to people who had no business asking this of me. I also learnt things about myself in response to these revelations. I learnt that my degree didn't come easily to me, but also that this would force me to approach learning in different ways that would be valued by those who would become my mentors and my employers. I learned that networking and leadership come in many forms. I learned that my identity is not a matter of logic or rationality, nor should it have to withstand the scrutiny of others. I learned that however alone I felt, there were people who understood me, that there were people who would support me, and that there were people I could support. Through all of this learning, I understood that no one could deny what I felt or how I identify. I understood what it is to be me. So, in conclusion, fail and fail well. Find your people, learn in context, and understand your own value and values. These are the 4 pieces of advice I wish I could have given myself. Having said all of this, the 18-year-old me probably wouldn't have been able to understand their significance. Imagination is harder to make sense of than memory, after all. But there is one reason why I would still, always, try to give the advice. Each lesson came from at least one difficult experience. Knowing that someone found those things difficult enough that they thought to help me overcome them would surely have made me feel less alone when I faced these experiences myself. Perhaps when you're being given advice, even forgettable advice, you're being told that you're not alone and that you will overcome the difficulties you will face. With that, I'll close. I hope that you enjoy your time at St. Andrews. I also hope that you have many memorable experiences. Your advice will be the words that reassure those who follow in your footsteps. Thank you for listening.
Many thanks to our inspirational speaker, and thank you all for watching the opening ceremony. Do enjoy the rest of your orientation, and don't forget to make the most of this time to prepare for classes. Finally, I would like to welcome you all once again, to congratulate you on your achievement of becoming a St. Andrean, and to wish you all a very happy, rewarding, and unforgettable experience at this magnificent university.